Good morning, everybody out there in MLB DFS land. This is your buddy Chop-A-Dong coming at you again with Chop Talk, another episode. We haven't done this for a long time, and I apologize, taking on a lot of new responsibilities inside DFSArmy.com, your one-stop shop for all things DFS, from tools to community to coaching to everything you can possibly think of, from 1,500 plus members, always talking DFS 24/7. We win in every sport. We've got MMA victories this week. We've got PGA victories this week. We got MLB victories this week. Guys, if you're not a VIP inside DFSArmy.com, what are you waiting for? I'm going to show you a little bit of our tool, the research station today, but what we're going to focus on is building lineups. I get a lot of questions between it for baseball specifically. What's a cash lineup? What's a GPP lineup? And what's the risk? And why do I stack in cash? Do I not stack? Whatever. I'm going to lay it out for you today, and I'm going to try and walk you through as best I can and show you the differences between the two. We'll build a few lineups and we'll send you out there hopefully with a little better understanding of what it is we do inside DFS Army, as well as what our coaches are capable of doing for your game. 20 plus coaches, 20 plus contributors. Follow the link in the description or the comments of the video down below. Use coupon code CHOP to trigger 10% savings off of your membership. There's no commitment. Try us for a month, try us for a year. It doesn't really matter. It's all up to you. Bottom line is there's no better place for optimizing lineups, for tools, for coaching, for discussion, for everything you can possibly think of, content and everything, other than DFSArmy.com. So let's rock on, let's roll in. I want to show you a little bit of how I go looking for guys before we dive into the cash versus GPP conversation. I mentioned in Chin Music a couple of things today, and I want to show you where I am. I'm on the Trends tab of the research station. We call it the RS. For short, and I'm seeing conflicting evidence. I see that the RS likes Houston and likes Cleveland and whatnot, and apparently in my article I liked Minnesota and some others. So let me show you. When it gets like that, I'm a little bit conflicted, and I kind of take a scattered approach, and I believe the RS, and I believe my own numbers a little bit, so I kind of mix and match and play around with it that way. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a million ways to skin a cat, which we'll discuss today too. But when I looked at Minnesota, I saw what I'm looking for first is this DFSA grade. It's a catch-all statistic, shows you a little bit of everything, incorporates a little bit of everything from the pitching numbers to the hitting numbers to the ballpark numbers to everything, all added together, and gives them a grade of an overall matchup. It's a beautiful system to follow. And it tells me that if I'm looking for numbers typically over about 75 or so, there aren't a lot of guys in that Minnesota offense, according to this research station, that are in great hitting spots. Doesn't mean they can't have a great night. It means that on paper, most of the time, they're going to have kind of mediocre results. But Vegas seems to like them. I tend to like them tonight because they're going up against Wade LeBlanc, who's not exactly a powerhouse pitcher. I like Brian Dozier. Sure I do. Is he running hot lately? Sure he is. What this trending tab shows you in trending WOBA, and we have it for a lot of other metrics too, from ISO to hard contact to BABIP to other things. But I like to focus on the WOBA numbers. I'm a results-oriented guy. It gives me a baseline of a season's worth of numbers. It gives me the last 14 days and the last 7 days. And what I'm seeing is two short-term samples running above the baseline numbers. Well, the 14's not, but the 7-day is. That tells me he's running hot. Okay, he was running cold maybe a week ago. Now he's running hot this week. I want to target hot hitters. In baseball, hot streaks are real, and we want to capitalize on them. We want to get on them when they're hot, get off them when they're cold. Makes a ton of sense, right? The only three guys maybe I'd be targeting in this offense are Dozier, Robbie Grossman, and maybe Eddie Rosario. Why? They're the hot guys. That's it. It's that simple. If I show you Cleveland, I want to show you the difference in how this matchup changes. These grades, based on what the research station likes, not a lot of guys over a 75, but all of a sudden we jump to Cleveland and look, everyone's an 80, upper 80s and a 90. We like them more. Cleveland's apparently in a better spot tonight. So what I'm looking for in Cleveland's, who's the hot hitters? Well, I got my baselines if I want to see who's doing all right, and I'm seeing other guys like Lindor here, who has 612 WOBA over the past 2 weeks and a 750 last week alone. Hello, he's running hot. Play him. Jose Ramirez is running all right. Brantley's playing all right. Encarnacion, cold as ice. Foreigner song. I'm not going to sing it for you. Look it up. Yonder Alonso running hot. So these four guys would be my targets. All right, making sense? Let's take Seattle for one more shot at it. See how the grades change? All right, we went a little bit lower than Cleveland. Cleveland's probably our lead offense tonight, but I look inside here for the hotter bats. There's a 480 for Zunino. There's a 500 for what looks like Ryan Healy. The 400 is for Seager. Seager, Zunino, and Healy are my 3 hotter batters in here. I might look at Haniger a little bit. Okay, but this is how I'm using this tool, and this is what it's putting me on. Now, let me show you how I use this for cash and for GPPs. Because when I dive into cash game versus GPPs, I'm going to go ahead and turn all the teams off here, bring all the teams back. I've got all of my positions over here. For cash games, we tend not to stack. Why don't we stack? We don't want to get too pigeonholed into one particular offense. Because if that offense comes out flat, has a bad night, and only scores 2 runs or 3 runs, and we've got 4 bats in that lineup, half our lineup's dead. So for cash games, when we only need to beat half the people because we're playing a head-to-head, we only need to beat 1 guy. Or we're playing in a 50-50 where 100 guys, we only need to beat 50 of them. We get paid the same whether we get 49th place or 1st place. We don't need to go for the win there. There's no reward. There's no extra bonus for getting the reward. It's not like it all of a sudden pays $2, $5, $10, $20. If so, we'd be more aggressive. We'd take more risk because there'd be more reward for the risk. There's no reward for finishing 1st in a 50-50, not compared to finishing 45th. So why try? I'm not saying barely eke across the line. You want to get across it comfortably, but the way you do it's by building a floor. I'm going to take less chances, and I'm going to let all y'all around me take all these risks and stack all these guys and F up. Because when you all F up and you all shoot yourselves in the foot, I'm left standing on top of the pyramid. Okay? That's why cash works. Now, baseball's a different animal. We do need some correlation. It does cap our upside when we don't have correlated plays. If I don't have 3, 4 guys in the same lineup, yes, am I going to score a 250? Probably not. I'm not double dipping those points. When that home run gets hit, I don't have 2 guys sitting on base that are also getting the runs, that are also, had hits leading up to it in that big inning where the turnstiles just kept on cranking. Okay, where that pitcher fell apart, and my offense, I had 4 guys in the offense that just destroyed the guy. Okay, so my upside's not going to be as high, but I don't need it to win those types of contests. Now, that's the extreme left side of the safety conservative play. And to do that, I'm not going to stack too much because I'm not going to get too into, I'm not going to take speculative pitchers. I'm not going to take speculative bats. I'm going to take guys with high OBPs and high WOBAs and things like that. And I'll show you here where you find the OBP because it's on base percentage. If the guy's getting on base, he's not making zeros. He's not making outs. I go into total today's batter matchup. And I can go all the way over and let's sort out, let's say, Cleveland again. And let's look at the pitcher that they're up against tonight. Why is it only giving me 4 guys? That's really weird. But right-handed bats, if I scroll all the way over, oh, it's filling in. Just what it was. It was trying to. Weird. Very weird. Don't understand that at all. But against right-handed bats, where's my WOBAs? Encarnacion, Yonder, Alonso. Where's my OBPs? In the last season or 2 seasons, we got 350 OBPs. That's not terrible, but these are the guys that are getting on base compared to these guys. So these are the guys I'd be focused on for cash games because the odds are better that they are going to be getting on base more and making sure that I don't earn zeros. Zeros kill you in baseball. You don't want zeros. You want to avoid them at all costs in cash games. Now again, I'm not going to take a guy who goes 0, 3, 0, 0, 3, 0, 40, 0, 0, 3, 0. That's not the guy I want in cash games. I want the guy who's 9, 12, 6, 15, 3, 9, 9, 12, 6. Those numbers are much better in a game log for a cash game player as opposed to all the zeros and then a 40 and then all the zeros. Okay, so that's what OBP gets me. OBP tells me who's getting on base, who's not making outs, who's not making zeros. Very important stat for cash gamers. Now what I'm going to do, come back into the trends tool, and since I'm not stacking and I'm not focused on a particular offense where, oh, Cincinnati's going to go off tonight, so I want 5 bats from Cincinnati. No, it doesn't work like that. In cash games, I want to spread out. So I'm going to go position by position, and I'm going to click first base, and then on FanDuel, since they combine them with catchers, I'm going to add the catcher in there, and I'm going to compare just that position, and I'm going to look for a couple of expensive bats and a couple of cheap bats that are all running hot. Who's getting on base? Who's getting the results? WOBA is not getting on base. WOBA is the results, okay? Weighted on base average. If you don't understand it, join the Army. We'll teach you all about it. But what I'm looking for is who's hot. Joey Votto, Cron, Alonso, maybe some Evan Gattis, Lucas Duda, and I'm looking for the cheaper guys. There's the value: Gattis, Duda, Alonso. Good value there. If I want to pay up, Votto. Let's say that first base is a powerful position and we wanted to pay up. I ran Corbin in there just because he's an expensive pitcher. I start with expensive pitchers in cash. They're generally consistent. Pay up for your pitching. See if you can start making this happen. I got to watch my average salary. I need some value, right? So when I come back over here to the research station, I'm going to just go position by position. I don't care about the teams. I don't care. I'm going to try and avoid taking more than 2 bats off the same team no matter how good the spot is. I don't care if my grandma's out there throwing to them. I don't want more than 2 bats per spot, per team, because I don't want to get too involved in one offense that comes out flat and really wrecks me. So when I'm looking at second baseman, who's running hot? Well, there's Scooter Gennett, who's obviously hotter than all of the others. If I scroll on down here a little bit, Perella, VR, maybe, you know, I mean, these are okay, but it looks like Dozier at 3,700 and Gennett at 3,700. If I wanted Minnesota to get away from Cincinnati, I could. If I wanted to take that second bat in Cincinnati because Cincinnati was in a good spot tonight, I would take Gennett for the same money. But now I've got 2 Cincinnati bats. Cincinnati's dead to me. I don't care who else is in there. No more Cincinnati bats. I'm going to go to third base. Now I really need some value, 2,800. I really need to start thinking value if I can get it. Now I'm building this a little bit different, a little bit top down. You can build them in a lot of different ways, but I'm showing you how you pay attention in the cash games. And then we'll do a GPP, and then we'll do one kind of in the middle. Hopefully we don't run up on 30 minutes or 45 minutes today. But again, lots of decent ratings, lots of decent bats. I'm looking for, well, 2,800. Christian Villanueva, not running very hot. That sucks. That would have been nice value. He's in a good spot. Brian Snyder, not running really well. See what I'm doing? I'm looking for the cheaper guys. Daniel Descalzo, 450. 450 7-day WOBA for 2,600. Thank you. I will take that value and run. Okay, now I've only got one more spot for an Arizona guy. I'm going to come over here now to my shortstops. Looking for value again. I got a couple hot guys up top. Trevor Story, whatever. Heckavaria down there, not running real good. Bogarts isn't very cheap. Brandon Crawford, 298 WOBA, not great. Adriana, whatever, 250, not great. I don't see any really hot guys at cheap prices. Simmons at 3,600 has been pretty consistent this year, but for 3,600, yuck. So now I'm really handpicked. Let's see if I can find it at 2,900. I really need some value in lots of places. I might lose Votto and Gennett because of this, just so you know. These are things you got to keep your eye on as you're going. I can't get married to Votto and Gennett. I run into the outfield. Let's see if it produces some value for me. Winker, not running good. Matt Joyce, running okay for Oakland. Don't know if I want him running up against Porcello, but he's not doing terrible. 3,000 for Peralta, 3,400 for Lorenzo Cain, 2,400 for Bradley Zimmer, who hasn't been playing much. He needs to get the start. He's obviously hurt. Shoot. So what I'm looking for, Joyce looks like somebody that I need for value. I can't get a bunch of guys under 2,900. So if I come back to the first base guys, I'm going to have to lose Votto, or I'm going to have to pay down in pitching. So I may have to scrap this rebuild and start over. I know Descalzo's there, so I'm going to start over, and I'm going to start with the first baseman and the catchers. I'm looking for the cheaper guys. Ramos, Olsen, who's running hot? Neither one. Yonder Alonso. All right, that's where I'm going. So there's a Cleveland and an Arizona guy. I'm paying attention to make sure I don't get too popped into one lineup. Maybe I can find another cheaper guy down here running pretty well. Lucas Duda, maybe. Let's go ahead and throw him in the utility for now. I know Mike Zunino was on there on the list too at 2,900. Let's save the 200 and throw Zunino in there. Now I can come back over here to second base and look to pay down again. I was looking for numbers purely before. Now I got to look for value. Kipnis. Is Kipnis doing all right? Not really. LeMahieu's a good OBP guy, not really running all that hot. Ketel Marte, not really running that hot. Daniel Robertson, scroll down a little bit more. Perella at 378. Is Milwaukee in a good spot going up against Tyler Anderson today? They might be. So let's throw Perella in there. When you run with expensive pitching, this is oftentimes what you end up doing. And then we can come back and upgrade it a little bit later, because what you're going to start noticing, is that my average salary is up here a good bit. It's a different approach. This is a little bit better way to do it when you pay up for pitching. I can afford Story if I want to right now. I got to probably pay up for shortstop because we noticed there wasn't a lot of guys that were running hot down below. So the cheaper one of them all is Story. So let's stay with the value approach here and take what the slate's given us and run Story out there. Now let's dip into the outfield. Look for the hotter bats and some of the cheaper ones. Winker's not running good. We just mentioned that. Down in here, Cruz, Joyce. Joyce is okay. Peralta's okay. Kane's okay. So Joyce, Peralta. Notice that's the second Arizona guy. And Lorenzo Kane. Now I've got myself a lineup filled out with 1,500 left over. I can start to correlate a little bit if I want to. I've got 2 Arizona bats in there. Arizona's done. Other good spots. Seattle's in an okay spot. Cleveland's obviously in a pretty good spot. So if I wanted to go back over here and target just Cleveland, turn my outfielders off. And get just my Cleveland guys and look for the hotter guys. Lindor at shortstop at 4,700. That's a big bite. Brantley in the outfield, 3,700 is a little bit more palatable. So let's do Brantley in the outfield since they're going to stack up next to each other in the lineup too. Who do we take out? Let's take out Lorenzo Kane because Brantley isn't a lot more expensive than Lorenzo Kane, and I probably won't be putting a couple of guys in Milwaukee in there. So if I run Brantley, now I've got 1,200 to play with. See how I'm upgrading slowly? This is a cash lineup build, okay? Joyce might not want Oakland going up against Peralta, against Porcello. So let's look for another outfielder. So I can take this one out, run all of my offenses back in there, and then I can click just on the outfield spots, and I can go picking. I've got 1,200 to play with, which if I want to stop right there, you know, that gives me 3,900 for an outfielder. So George Springer can't get him. Brantley got him. Martinez, Pollock can't afford Pollock. Winker, Betts, Haniger and Zunino, and I could be done. Nelson Cruz. Nelson Cruz isn't running that hot right now. Joyce, Peralta, Chris Davis in Oakland, Ryan Braun, Lorenzo Kane. I could put Lorenzo Kane back in there. If I run Lorenzo Kane back in there, I got 500 more to play with. I could upgrade my shortstop if I wanted to. I could run Joyce back in there for the savings, and I can upgrade off of Perella at second base. But if you look what I'm doing, I'm not targeting specific offenses. I'm not stacking intentionally. Scooter Gennett at 3,700. Can I get him? 3,400. No. Got to stay under 3,400. DJ LeMahieu's a decent OBP guy sometimes. If I wanted to run Dozier or Gennett, let's say I wanted to do that. I know I'm over my cap. Now I can come down off of Corbin if I wanted to, and I can pick up Carrasco. And I've only got 100 left to upgrade somewhere, to find somewhere. And I can easily find that probably back in the outfield. Just bounce around. And we'll stop it here. We'll find a guy. What did I say? 2,600 in the outfield. There's Jesse Winker. No. Joyce. No. Damn. Zimmer. Souza's not terrible, but I'm going to scroll down a little bit here and hopefully find a little bit hotter guy for cheap. There's Grossman in Minnesota. Oh, that just gave me more money to play with. I'm not worried about leaving money on the table. You know, $600 or so doesn't bother me, but if I wanted to get off of a couple of these other guys, it's fine. But let's double check. Well, if I wanted to go back to Corbin, I could. Let's double check. Or the utility. This is what I often do in the utility spot. I'll take him out. Now I've got 3,500 to play with in the utility spot. So when I already know some of the names that I'm looking for, I'll scroll down to 3,500 if I want to fill my cap. But I don't need to worry too much about that in baseball. Belt, Davis, Segura, Whit Merrifield, Salvador Perez, Cron was on the list. There, we can run some power in Cron. And what we've ended up doing in a cash game lineups, we've got no more than 2 guys on each team. Cleveland. We've got a Cincinnati, Arizona, Cleveland, Colorado, Minnesota, Arizona, Tampa Bay. So this is a good cash safe lineup. Okay? It's not too risky. It's not too pigeonholed. It's taking the guys that are running hot, that are in the WOBA, that are also getting some, getting on base, not making outs. There's a little bit of power in it for a little bit of help, but it's not. It's really spread out across good spots tonight. Good overall ratings, good spots. That's your cash game type of lineup. Okay. Now, if you want to do a GPP lineup, let's say you want to take your pitcher and you want to pay down because you want to be able to afford the risky bats. And you want to run some stacks and some deep teams. Say maybe you dip down to Lucchesi or go even further down to like a Tyler Anderson tonight, who I wrote up. This is a GPP only lineup. We're going to go all risk all the time. You can throw game theory in there if you want to, and this guy's going to be chalk, so I want to pivot off of this guy. But now we're going to pick offenses. What offenses did we like? We liked Minnesota, the Cincinnati, Houston. Boston's always a pretty powerful offense. We liked Cleveland. Let's go into Cleveland. Let's turn off our outfield, and let's stack up the hot hitters in Cleveland regardless of price. So what I'm looking for here, Lindor's going to be in there for sure. Alonso's going to be in there for sure. Maybe some Brantley. I might even throw Ramirez in there for a good 4-stack. So if I did Alonso, Lindor, Ramirez, and Brantley, I am all in on the Cleveland offense inside this lineup. I've still got 3,100 to play with because I've got my pitchers so cheap. What other offense would I want to stack up tonight? Who else is in a good spot? Let's say Arizona. Now I'm going to go in here, and I'm not going to worry too terribly much about all these. I'm going to try and get a couple. What is 3 guys? Pollock, Peralta, and Descalso. Bang. Descalso happens to provide some value into the bat. So Peralta's an outfielder. Descalso will end up being my utility guy. Who else did we say? Peralta, Pollock, and Descalso. So there's my other outfield guy. So I've got an outfield spot left. There's Pollock. Descalso goes in the utility. And now I need to find a third offense, right? I've got a Colorado pitcher, but I need a third offense. Cleveland, Arizona. Random second baseman for 3,100. And I want him to be in a good spot, so I could go back to that sheet and look if I wanted to. But Nunez in Boston's probably okay. Kipnis, can't use him. He's in, VR, Daniel Robertson, Perella, whatever. Okay? If I wanted to pay all the way down and almost punt it, with somebody down here, then I can upgrade my pitcher. Doesn't look like I'm going to be able to do that, though. So let's say that I take Boston's Nunez, and that just is what it is. If I wanted to, I could take out some of these other guys, and I could throw in somebody else, and then I could upgrade some of these positions if I want. You got to play with it. But look at how extreme this lineup is set up. It's a risky Colorado pitcher who's a cheaper pitcher because he's not as good as a Max Scherzer, obviously. Then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 Cleveland bats, 1, 2, 3 Arizona bats, all stacked up. If Arizona and Cleveland score 10 runs each tonight, I'm in a great spot. If Cleveland scores 2 and Arizona scores 3 runs tonight, I'm probably not winning GPPs. I'm screwed. But that's the risk I'm taking because, again, the risk gets paid off in the reward when I win those GPPs. I don't care about min cashing. What do I want to turn $3 into $6 for? I want the $5,000 grand prize. So I'm going to fight for that. Now, I've got the extremes. I've got the cash game that's all spread out and it's dealing independent of offense. It's dealing independent of positions, just taking OBP and WOBA type guys, hopefully hotter hitters, and is really spreading out. And then I've got the GPP lineup, which is taking some chances, taking some risks, and is also really, really stacked up tight. So that if I get, Alonso and Ramirez and Brantley on base, and then I don't know the order, and Lindor comes up and hits a home run, I get all of those points. All of those players accumulate points, all on that one play. That's what puts you over the edge in those GPPs. Somebody's going to do it tonight, somewhere. Now, what I like doing those, I like toning that down. I don't like building that risky. I don't like being that boom or bust. I like to kind of blend my lineups up and down a little bit and kind of take some risk, but not a ton of risk. And to do that, I realize that what I've done is I can win my cash games, my 50-50s, and three mans and triple ups and things like that because I'm taking some risk and getting up into the top quartile or so of those contests. When I do that, I want to get paid a little bit more than just double my money in a 50-50. So I add some triple ups into there. I add something. If you haven't seen the ladder system yet, just come to dfsarmy.com and ask some, find it in the strategy section. Go click back a couple of pages. It's back in the MLB. It's in every sport because it's a revolutionary, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here, but it's a revolutionary concept that takes the cash game concept and feeds some upside into it so that you can also win some triple ups, some quintuple ups, maybe some, leagues and some small GPPs, but you're backed with cash game principles. And so your lineup is fairly safe. So what you're doing is you're aiming for those bigger contests for the payouts, and you're missing with the cash line. You're missing on the nights you don't really do really well. You're still missing with the 50-50s, and you're making back some of your investment, if not profiting some. That's going to help you become a better player, and that's what we teach inside DFS Army. But on top of that, you also realize you're not taking as much risk as the next guy. You're not really selling out to winning a large field GPP. You really kind of can't with the hybrid building system unless it, really comes together for you. And when you're doing that, you're understanding that I shouldn't be in those contests anymore because I'm not going to win them. I'm not trying to win them. I'm trying to win maybe 100-man leagues, 1,000-person GPPs, whatever. But I'm mostly building for 50-50s and triple ups and three mans and 20-person leagues and things like that. That's where I'm going to make my money. That's where I'm going to make my hay. I've got enough upside to win those. Baseball's a different sport, though. Baseball requires more stacking than the usual sport than football or basketball. It requires more correlation because here's why. You've got 100 people in a 50-50. More than 50% of them are stacking these days. They enjoy it. It's what they want to do. Let them. It's boom or bust. But the problem is when everybody's doing it, some of them are going to connect. And you're going to get screwed if you don't do it. If you don't join them a little bit, you're going to get screwed. Okay? So you have to stack a little bit in baseball. Unless you're just running head-to-heads. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Here's my head-to-head philosophy and why I don't really like them that much. If I want to spread out, and like if I run one head-to-head, I have no idea. I can score a 250 and lose. Because I just ran against the guy who had a better night. I can also score an 85 and win. But if I pick up 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 contests, I might get 3 or 4 lucky guys, that had great nights, and I might lose those contests even with a great score myself. So to spread that out and get the actual realization of the lineup that I built, I need to take on volume. But because of that, if I take on 20 or 30 or 50 head-to-heads, for me to beat all 50 of them, I need to have, a top 2% type of lineup across the industry, which got me deep into some GPPs, which won triple ups and won 50-50s and won all those other contests, and all I did in those head-to-heads was sweep 50 guys and barely double my money. That's not enough risk for the reward, or not enough reward for the risk, in my opinion. Is it a good, safe way to grind up some bankroll? Sure. If you beat more than half the guys most of the time, sure. But you better get used to putting $10 in and maybe profiting $3. You better get used to putting $100 in and getting back 125, 150, 175 on the night. It also preserves very, very well because, if you end up having a bad night and you put 100 in, you're going to get back 80 or you're going to get back 50 or you're going to get back 10. You're going to get back something. So there's a hedge factor in there too that's nice, and some people like that, and that's fine. But I don't like the idea of that. I would rather take, unless I was running massively high volume, I would rather take my money, my small $10, $25, $30 a night, and I'd rather run it in 50-50s. And yes, I'll take the boomer bust because I'm going to run it through the week. I'm going to win some nights. I want to make sure that I build for some upside, and so that when I hit those upside contests, when I win, I pay back for the nights that I lost. I'm not going night to night. I'm going week to week or month to month. That's what I care about. If I'm good at beating the 50-50s, if I'm good at beating head-to-heads, I'll be fine. Not worried about it. Okay? But to do that, I understand that I'm going up against 100 people. And going up against 100 people 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 75 of them are going to be stacking, even in cash. And if they stack the 2 or 3 or 4 better offenses on the night, and those offenses have okay nights, I am screwed, because I can't take one from that offense and one from that offense and one from that offense and hit the perfect guy in every single offense. Can't do it. So I'm going to lose to the guys that were stacking because they cast a little wider net in that offense that got 8 runs. They put, in an offense that scored 10 runs, they put Alonso and Ramirez and Lindor and Brantley in there together. And 2 of those guys had huge games. And I don't know which 2 it's going to be, but 2 of them had huge games. And the other 2 didn't really. It doesn't matter because they got 80 points out of 4 guys. And next thing you know, they got 20 points per player and they're crushing me in cash. So what we have to do in those cash games is we do have to infuse a little bit of stacking. So, but what I'm going to do in those hybrid situations is I'm going to stack even a little bit more. I'm going to go up to 3, maybe 4, 3 or 4, whatever. So when I go into those hybrid lineups, I'm going to try and take my pitcher, and I'm still going to pay up for steady pitching. I'm not going to take some off-the-wall Tyler Anderson guy very often. I might some, but I'm still going to pay up. Let's say I took a Carrasco. Arguably safest pitcher on the slate tonight. I need those points. I lock them in. I'm still building for a floor. Where I'm going to get my upside is in differentiating just a little bit by taking a few more bats than I normally otherwise would. So let's say I started in Cleveland again. Lindor's going to be pricey with a $10,000 pitcher. So I may take Ramirez, or I may take, say, Brantley, Ramirez, and Alonso for sure because he's the value guy. And now I can be done. That's a 3 stack. It's moderate. It's not a full-on 4 stack. It's a little bit better than 2. And now what I can do is, let's say I liked Arizona, and I know Descalzo was in there, right? And I come up a little bit, and I see... Where was Peralta? He was in there too, and he was in a good spot as well. Where'd he go? Am I missing him? There he is. Now I might just chill on Arizona a little bit. I might come over to, to Boston. Bogarts is a pretty cash safe guy. I might run him in there. I might run a Mitch Moreland in there. He's been running pretty well lately. Nunez at second base to get some exposure to the offense. I might get out of there. I might not like him. I might like Seattle or Minnesota. Let's say Minnesota. Grossman was dirt cheap. It's just easier to go this way, I suppose. Oh, league minimum. Hello, value. Woo! And there, I can run Dozier with him. And now I can just take any old shortstop I want from anywhere else. If I wanted to throw the shortstop, from Minnesota in there and throw that stack out there, I could do that. But if I wanted to just take somebody else, I got, 3,200 to play with? Peraza, Iglesias, Brandon Crawford, Ahmed. Not great. Doesn't look like. So if I want to pay up to get into there, now I got to come down somewhere else. I'm not taking my value guys out of there, right? I might take Dozier out of there. Look for a second baseman. Kinsler, LeMahieu, Nunez for Boston. That's okay. So I've got a Boston guy. I've got, a couple of Cleveland, three Cleveland guys, 2 Arizona guys. In an ideal world, I could take the Cleveland guy out of there. Could run a little Valbuena in there from LA with Simmons. And then maybe my second baseman. Of course, I can pay whatever the hell I want to. I could run Altuve in there. I could run Dozier in there with Grossman. And upgrade off of the value and down. But see, now I'm starting to get away from the mini stack in Arizona, which is fine. But I'm going to want to tie it in. Let's say I wanted to tie it in here with LA. What do I need? A utility player from LA, so it can be anybody? Upton. Ohtani. Good spots. Throw Upton in there. And now what I've got is a 3x3 stack. I got 3 LA Angels. I got a little bit of Minnesota, 2 of those, 3 of the Cleveland guys. I'm still pigeonholed into an offense that, with Cleveland and LA. They need to have good nights. And if they do, I'm fine. If they don't, I'm not. But I can get saved a little bit with some correlation in Arizona with Peralta and Descalzo if they have good nights. Well, I took Descalzo out, I guess. Who is it? Minnesota with Dozier and Grossman. But where I'm at is I'm spread out a little bit more than just heavily pounding 2 teams. I'm pounding 3 teams here. You know, if I wanted to take Upton out of there and I wanted to run in somewhere else, like I wanted some Seattle exposure, you know, I can get Haniger, I can get Nelson Cruz. That's okay. I can take one of my other little punt guys like a Valbuena, and I can maybe upgrade him somewhere. Saldino, Christian Villanueva, take a chance. Go back to Descalzo for Arizona. I mean, there's just options. I'm running 2s and 3s. I'm not quite as risky as a full-on stack. I didn't do anything contrarian. These are all good offenses, all in good spots tonight based on our research station. I took a good safe pitcher, but I correlated a little bit by stacking a little bit more than I would in cash. And what that's going to do is give me the upside that when I'm right, I can now beat those other guys that are stacking because I got the good stacks with them. And now I can get way into the top of the 50-50s, and I can get up into the triple ups. I can win 3-mans. I can get into some of the leagues in GP. I'm not going to win a big GPP this way very often, if at all, but I'm going to get up into that top, say, 5% of lineups that are built that night. If I get into the top 10, top 5% of lineups, I can win 10-mans. I can win 20-mans. I can win 100-man leagues, things like that. A 100-man league pays me $25 on the dollar. I mean, that's a good little rate of return for a good, safe lineup. It's a good, chalky offense. It's a good, safe lineup. It's something that's going to do well a couple of nights a week. This is how you build hybrid lineups. So you've got your cash lineups for ultra safe, not a lot of stacking, kind of paying attention to who everybody likes. You got your GPP lineups that are taking risks and taking chances and really pounding in the correlation and really pounding in, you know, the stacking and stuff like that. And you've got a hybrid that's somewhere in between. And that hybrid, when it's somewhere in between, I can lean it risky. I could take a 4-stack in there if I wanted to, and then a couple of 2 stacks. I could lean conservative and get away from some of the stacking and stay a little bit more in the chalk and take a little bit more of the conservative players. If I wanted to lean more risky, I might take a Chris Davis in Baltimore, or somebody who's a little bit more boom or bust, and surround him with a Trey Mancini or somebody else kind of stacked a little bit, and hopefully have that guy on base if Chris Davis hits a home run or 2. But I'm taking those chances, but I'm limiting my chances. I'm not really going full-on crazy like I might in a GPP. Okay, hopefully that's making a little bit of sense as to how that sliding scale works. And what I'm going to do when I build these lineups is I'm going to start taking that sliding scale. And was my hybrid lineup a little risky today? Or was it a little conservative? Where did I end up going? As I built, as I went a little bit more conservative, okay, then I'm going to tone down the GPP and the big league exposure to that lineup. And I'm going to throw mostly 50-50s, head-to-heads, 3-mans, 10-man leagues, things like that at that particular lineup. And then if I get a little bit more onto the other side of things, get a little bit more risky, okay, now I might take away from some of the head-to-heads and go a little bit more in the 50-50s, or, you know, I might get a little bit more into the 3-man, 5-man, 100-man, or 10-man, 100-man leagues and maybe throw it in a GPP or 2 because I took a little bit more risk and I can actually win something with 100, you know, with 1,000 or 2,000 people in it. That's all stuff we talk about inside DFS Army. Hopefully you got something out of that. Hopefully you understand a little bit of that sliding scale, a little bit of the conservative, a little bit that we still need to stack a little bit in baseball, but we don't need to stack all the way unless we're doing GPPs. And there is that hybrid blend in the middle that still stays pretty much on cash principles, but does take a little bit more risk and can get into those different things. And when you those different contests that pay, you know, triple, quintuple, and even 10 times your money, because when you get into those, that's how you build your bankroll. You miss with the 50-50s, but you hit with the 100-man leagues, the 20-man leagues, the small GPPs, the 300-person GPPs, things like that. That's what you're after. That's how you build lines. That's how you really get the maximum benefit out of the tools and the coaching inside DFSArmy.com. So hopefully you follow the link in the comments and you become a member today and use coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P, to get that 10% off discount, because I'm telling you guys, that's where it's at, is in the coaching and in the discussion and in telling people how to become better players when they have questions and they wonder where their process may be a little bit off or going wrong. That's what we do inside DFS Army all day long, guys. It's been 40 minutes. We're out of here. I'm going to keep this video up for a little while inside my articles, so hopefully a few people catch it. Let me know if you like it. I'll do more strategic pieces like this as we go forward. Hopefully it helps some of you out. Have a good night. We'll see you inside DFS Army. VIPs will be in there all day long talking this stuff. Free guys got to become a VIP to get the rest of the advice. See you later.